Alright, welcome to Unit 4 Reasoning, Day 3 Basic Constructions. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be demonstrating our reasoning and geometry doing basic constructions using nothing but a straight edge and a traditional compass. You can have compasses that look different than this, obviously, and straight edges don't necessarily need to have the inches marks even on them. It just needs to be a straight edge. So, with your compass, a quick tidbit about circles. Whenever you are doing a circle, you'll actually be, the best advice I can give you is to hold the point of the compass, that will be the center of a circle. Then you can adjust the circle to what you need it. And now, whenever you make a circle, you'll want it to, you can see actually how I usually just spin the paper underneath it. I put all the pressure down on the center of the circle, and I'll let the pencil just kind of glide over the paper. I also angle the compass to where it will be more apt to make a good circle. So that's what we're going to be doing a lot today. Let's go and get it done. I'm going to start off with constructing a congruent line segment. This is my given line. I'm going to make a line segment that's congruent to it. To start off this construction, I'm actually going to make a ray, and I'm going to represent more of the ray than the line segment that I see. So my ray is going to look something like this. There's my ray. I already have one end point that might represent this one on the left. I'm going to need to create a second end point on my ray, but I cannot measure. The one basic premises of basic constructions is that you're never going to measure with length, or you're never going to measure with a degree of an angle. How I'm going to get it done is I'm going to use my compass, and I'm actually going to set my compass to the original segment. Once I've set it end point to end point, I'm going to pick my compass up without changing its setting. I'm going to bring it down here to the new ray, and I'm going to make an arc. This counts as one circle that I've used, even though it was only a part of the circle that I showed. It counts as one circle. That's one endpoint, that's my other endpoint. This segment is now congruent to this segment. And I'm done with that construction. On this construction, I'm going to construct a congruent angle. This is my given angle. I'm going to make a congruent angle down here below it. Now, an angle is two rays. I made mine an obtuse angle. It could be an acute angle or a perpendicular angle. I'm going to start off by making one ray on my paper. Now I'm going to need to find out where the second ray needs to go. You can't just guess and be like, whoa, right there it is. Now that's not math. What we need to actually do is actually create a point up here that will show me the direction of this other ray. To do that, I'm going to take my compass, and I'm going to put the point of the compass on the original vertex, and I'm going to actually make an arc that hits both sides of my angle up there. Now I'm going to put that same arc down here where the next vertex will be. And at that time, I'm ready to actually recreate my angle almost, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my compass to how wide this arc is. It's going to be similar to the last construction I just did. So I'm going to set it to the width of the angle from end point to end point. Pick it up, bring it down to where it's going to now go. Make an arc. That point right there shows me where my second ray needs to go, and I'll be done. Now you can see I've used 1, 2, 3 circles on this construction, and I am done. These two angles are congruent. Alright, this is a construction that gets used a lot. A perpendicular bisector of a segment. I'm going to make a line that is perpendicular to this original segment. Also, it's going to intersect this original segment at its midpoint. How I'm going to do that? Take your compass, put the point of the compass on one of the two endpoints. Make sure that your compass goes further than halfway. It could actually be set to longer than the segment if you like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make an arc around that endpoint. And now, without changing the setting of my compass, I'm going to do that same arc from the other endpoint. See how the arcs overlapped? If it wouldn't have been past halfway, that wouldn't have happened. That gives me 2 points for my perpendicular bisector to be constructed from. This line is perpendicular and it is a bisector of the original segment. Now I'm going to create an angle bisector of this given angle. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the same construction I just did with the perpendicular bisector. Problem is I don't have 2 endpoints, so I'm going to create 2 endpoints by using my compass, putting the point of the compass on the vertex of the angle, and making an arc that hits both sides of the angle. Now, I've kind of created a small line segment in here. You could actually draw it if you want to. And all I got to do is make the perpendicular bisector of that line segment. I'm going to make sure that my compass is going at least halfway across. You can change the setting of your compass if you need to. I'm going to make an arc right there. And I'm going to make an arc from the other end point. I've used 3 circles, and if I line up the intersection of those arcs with the vertex, I've got a ray that is bisecting the original angle into 2 congruent angles now, splitting it in half. On this construction, I'm given a line and a point on the line. And this point A is right here. I'm going to make a perpendicular that's going to go through this point. Now I can't just do a perpendicular bisector and consider these my endpoints, because that would put it somewhere in here. What I need to do first is establish 2 points and then do my perpendicular bisector construction. So I'm going to start off by putting the point of my compass on point A, and I'm going to do a circle around point A. I actually only needed the parts of it that were intersecting the original line. That creates 2 endpoints. I know that A is the midpoint of these 2 endpoints. So if I now do the perpendicular bisector between these 2 endpoints, I'm going to have my perpendicular through point A on the given line. So I'm going to put my compass on the endpoint, make it further than halfway, make my arc, and make that same arc from the other endpoint I constructed. This is taking 1, 2, 3 circles, and what I can do is now line up my straight edge. And there's my perpendicular through point A. On this construction, I'm going to be creating a perpendicular through point A again, and it's going to be perpendicular to line L. The trick is point A is not on line L. It's actually the same construction, really. Only difference is when I set my compass here to make 2 endpoints, I'm going to need to make sure that my compass is set large enough to where it will intersect the given line at 2 locations. So I'm going to make something like that, with the center of that circle being my given point. Now I've made 2 endpoints. If I make the perpendicular bisector of this, it'll actually be going through point A. So I'm going to need 2 more circles. Make sure your compass is going further than halfway again. Make the first arc there. Go over to the left end point and make your second arc. With 3 circles, now I can line up my arcs with endpoint A. And there's my perpendicular through a point, not on a line. On this construction, I'm going to be creating a line parallel to the given line L. Alright, now this is actually a construction I'm going to do twice. This is the first. To start this one, I'll put my compass somewhere towards the middle of the represented line and make an arc that hits the line at 2 locations. At that time, I'm going to go to each of these locations where it hit the line. I'm going to set my compass to some distance, and I'm going to make an arc from this first endpoint that intersects the first arc. I'm going to do that same exact arc on the left side. I've got two intersections. These intersections are equidistant from the original line. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and line them up and create my parallel line. This new line is parallel to the original given line. Now, in geometry, whenever you're able to make a construction with fewer circles, you demonstrate a better understanding of the construction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that same construction with parallel lines, but I'm only going to use one circle. How you're going to do this is we're actually going to be creating, using property of a rectangle. Start with a point not on the line. This point is going to be the center of my one and only circle I'm going to use. I'm going to make my compass large enough to where it will intersect the given line at two locations. That's the only circle. I'm going to take this compass, throw it to the side. I don't need it anymore. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some diameters with the original center and where it actually intersected the given line. So I'm going to take my time and line it up. The more time you take on this process, the better result you'll get. There's one diameter. I'm going to make the same diameter over here from the other location where it intersected the line. What I've made here is the diagonals of a rectangle, and this opposite side of a rectangle would have to be parallel to the original given line. So I'm going to line up where those diameters terminated. And this new line is parallel to the original one. All is said and done.